right. Welcome. We are live. We are back, joined with Mike with Alien Carvings, the ancient ooparts out of Mexico. Julia Kamen, welcome as well. Wonderful to have you. And in the background, not last but not least, we have Shem Tartarian Truth, but he is just eating as he just endured a 3-hour stream on Old World, Florida. He will be joining us here in a little bit. Oh, Shem, you didn't have to do that. And spends $5 while he's eating in the background. My goodness. What a guy. Anywho, thank you. And how are you, Mike and Julia? Good to see you guys.
Doing great, man. How are you?
Good. Can't complain. Here to brighten up Julia's day, and everybody else is here with some amazing artifacts that you have to show for us. So put you on a larger screen. And then, were you live on your TikTok as well, or?
I will be.
You're doing that in an hour, so you can post the link here when you leave, and we can put that there for everyone joining, and hopefully by the next time be able to integrate.
Yep, exactly. I think we're on YouTube though now. So.
Oh yeah, and we are live on your YouTube, so I will actually make sure I get that link for everybody and post it, as well as for Julia, live on Julia's channel as well. So I will post both of them here. Make sure everybody go and subscribe to these wonderful people. So what do you have to show for us today?
Oh, we got some pretty exciting news. I had some lab tests done on this stone, this type of stone that all these pieces from Tula are made out of. Is limestone, which is really interesting that they would use limestone.
It's limestone.
Yeah, the phosphorescence, all of this is limestone. And it's they always called it flint rock or flint stone, which actually is a type of limestone. But when we had it analyzed, that's what the lab said, which I thought was super interesting because obviously the pyramids were covered in limestone, right? So, I mean, there's just
yes, they were
strange stone choice, I guess.
Or the exact opposite. Intriguing that they have limestone, and then the casings were, one was limestone, I believe, one was sandstone, and then the inner chambers were basalt and stuff, and
granite, I think. Yeah,
granite.
Isn't limestone like really conductive and it can like glow? And
exactly, well, that's what this stuff glows. It has the phosphorescence, and so it's like, it makes sense that a lot of these pieces are like for rituals or things of that nature. They could have had powers essentially from the pyramidal energy that was being reflected, if that's what the pyramids were used for.
So there'll be like little small particles of quartz in it, right?
Yep. Yeah, you can see here, like on this piece. Let me see. I'll show you one over here real quick.
That is like really conductive too.
You can see here where it's like chipped.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's all white underneath.
Oh yeah, straight limestone then.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you might be able to get an approximate dating with the layer of probably oxidization would be the form.
Well, that is one thing that he did say, is that he could guarantee that the carvings were not any newer than 150 years based on what he saw. He couldn't date the pieces to any archaeological erosion in terms of cataclysmic events, stuff like that, ancient erosion events. But just like Vesuvius or something like that, depending on how the stuff was buried, if this was from the mud flood, then it probably wouldn't have those traces because it's all packed in mud, right?
That's a ring?
Well, I
It's
mean,
giving
it's
me like
pretty
Solomon's. That's giving me Solomon's. You hear like Solomon had a
good
brain.
size.
Definitely giant demigod's ring for sure.
Yeah, it's something else. I'm going on Wednesday to get it XRF scanned to see what the alloy is. One of them we found had rhodium. This one here is probably got quite a bit of copper because you can see the Statue of Liberty in it.
Statue of Liberty or the oh gosh, I forgot the goddess's warrior goddess name. Right is about to say
Oh,
it. The tongue.
oh yeah, Olympus.
No, was it Apollo? No,
Athena?
God. Athena.
Athena?
Athena, that's the one. Thank you. See, Julia, we need you here. You're the female balance, the female research when the men forget. Like
What's interesting with
that a
this
math
ring,
equation? And is that oh you said you
there's one almost identical to this out of quartz in the Grand Egyptian Museum. Um, I mean, literally same Sphinx to the like. It's really quite insane. Look at the little like staff that he's holding and how it's like welded on there. Oops. It's really just seriously quality work for intricate metal like that.
Wait. Sorry, I was
wild.
typing. Wait, can you zoom
So
out? Like,
it
okay.
looks like it's welded with like no welding material other than like the
That's
same
what I'm saying. The
material.
cleanliness it's been polished or whatever, but it's impressive, considering how small it is. Like it's not no mold. I'm not really sure how they made it, to be honest.
And that one wasn't tested, the one that you have in your hand?
No, I'm going to test all these on
Okay.
Wednesday. I haven't been over. I go over to
How
a
long does it
gold
take?
store. It just takes a second, but it's the machine to do it's like $15,000. So, there's a gold store locally that they'll test gold and everything, and so they let me use it for free. So, really nice people.
That
But
heck yeah, like that's awesome. Any more developments with the professor or something that you had mentioned last time that you were going to be
yeah,
working with?
Yeah, in fact, we've started. It's moving quite quickly, actually. So what we're doing is creating a foundation with a nonprofit organization that's going to have a proper board and everything to get the museum, to get these pieces taken care of in a trust, and to get the research and stuff done on it properly. So that's going to be it. Me and two other large collectors are going to donate quite a few pieces to the trust to get it established. And, we're going to start trying to write for research grants, whatever it takes. The professor's really into grant writing and that sort of stuff. And he's confident with artificial intelligence and the languages that we have here that it should be fairly simple to request grants based on what he does there. So it's
That's awesome.
definitely worth a try. He's confident that he can put this language and put these star maps into a computer AI server, and it should spit out quite extensive data regarding maybe patterns or similarities or possible connections. We can also upload obviously all the other languages of the known dialects and compare it and do things of that nature. So it should be rather interesting to see the results.
Oh yeah, like it's exact what you
Yeah.
just described is exactly what I've been repeating, like I said, literally for a decade since I first came upon the same artifacts that you have now that Nassim and Klaus first showed when I saw that pictographic language. It was just like it needs to be AI'd, and it will. I guarantee it will come back with results that show that it is some lost ancient higher, whether it be like God or angelic language, alien,
Yeah.
or
Well, the
you know,
fall of Babel was the shattering of the language that united everyone, I believe, at the time, or something of that nature. So um, that's there's definitely possibly something in that area. I always wondered, who designed these languages like English and Spanish, and why some countries used
and
some and
devolved
others.
English into this like language of snakes and spells of chains and curses.
Yeah, but you kind of hit it on the head. Like
Texas Bread, he had a question. He said on the metal pieces,
uh
do the markings look more like scratched in, or can you see a rotary type tool mark swirling?
I'm gonna give a macro shot here of this one because it really kind of tells a story. I'm not gonna answer that because I can't really tell, but it looks scratched into me on that one there for sure. If I can hold it steady here, hang on, let me set it down. There we go. So I mean, it's interesting, let alone on the inside of it here. It doesn't seem symmetrical in terms of a normal bit. Like you can see on the handbag there, the left hand side is a very thin, narrow carving line, whereas the right hand side is much thicker. There's no depth consistency when we've measured it with the SEM testing. There's depths all over the map, um, as well as the symmetry in the sidewalls. There's no consistent diagonal or any sort of edging that you would expect with a Dremel or something like that. So I don't know.
That's
It's really hard to say what.
wild.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
We are definitely going to have to do a follow up on what the composition results come back as
De-
on those.
Definitely. I'll be posting a video on Wednesday on TikTok and Instagram. But we can definitely go over Wednesday night or something like that if you want to plan for it.
Absolutely. I will set it up after this tonight so we can. That's something I'm working on now in the new year that I failed the last 3 weeks, but still half a week left in January. So for all the shows in the first week of February, they're going to be posted in the next couple of days here. I was actually talking with Shem before we went live. We're going to be doing one on the World's Fair next week, along with Lucas Aurelius and Lucius Aurelius channel and Old World History, I believe. But yeah, also next Wednesday back with Mike, and when you said Wednesday, so Woo Woo
Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday it is.
We got to change that to Wow.
Owl Wednesday, right? Oh wow. And look at the style that almost looks like a Nubian elongated head.
It's wild. Definitely Egyptian shaping.
For sure. And Nubian being the upper Egyptian. Oh, we got Shem back. Welcome, Shem. Good sir.
Right here. What's up?
Looks like we're going into this is always my favorite part.
Mike, are there any carvings or hieroglyphics on any of those artifacts that relate to Dionysus or Osiris?
Oh yeah.
Can
Yeah,
you
I've
show
got
us
a
those?
sarcophagus with Osiris on it. A lot of Osiris and Horus and showing the resurrection and Isis and a lot of Isis showing the pre-Adamic birthing and scenes. Here, I'll show you like of the Adamu. You know, it says in the cuneiform writings that it took 700 years and whatnot to perfect the Adamu species, which was Adam's prerequisite. And you can see here, you know, there's no humans being depicted on these pieces, but Isis looks consistent with her Egyptian depictions, but she's obviously nursing an Adamu here, which is the predecessor to Adam, the slave species in Eden that was utilized, you know, in many different experiments prior to the flood.
Are
But
there
she's
any
really,
segment, like lion-headed goddesses?
yes, yes.
Oh,
I've
I
seen
don't
a
have it
couple.
down here, but I have a pyramid that has Sekhmet on the one side of
what?
it. Hmm.
Ooh,
Yeah, Sekhmet, Sobek.
Yeah, I think on one of the sides of the big table or one of the big or the round table carvings, I've seen one as well.
Not with Sobek. It's got you know, Raw and I don't know any of the names of these guys. Probably the fallen angels, though. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'd say you got that right. Those definitely look like fallen angels.
Yeah. What I find is interesting too is I'm gonna show this. Like you see these where they would have beards almost. If you look at the styling here of you know specifically
It's
the
like
guy on the right.
Sumerian, Babylonian, Assyrian
Well, the
style of beard.
Egyptians, even
Yeah.
on King Tut's death mask, you'll find um, this beard. And what I found out was that they would, because I mean King Tut was
Oh,
14
there's a
years old, so
crocodile humanoid god figure. What's the crocodile one called
that's
in Egypt?
Sobek.
Sobek.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
Sobek, Roth,
So
Ra.
they would tape or pin on beards to mimic their gods, and the pharaohs were the living gods. And so they put those beards on because that's what their god, these angels are the creators, you know, like that, or of the you know, of what they
That
believed in, I
piece
guess.
right there on just above you. Do you mind that? Yes, this one. If we can focus in on this, is fascinating because that essentially is
It's
like a
got the eight
Mayan
planets.
Aztec style, but yeah, the 8 planets. And if it can
I'm gonna pull it down here. Hang on one second.
probably be correlated to, looks more like the um, Sumerian style or Egyptian style of the depiction of them. Anubis.
Oh.
What?
A lot going on.
That is wild. And the feathered like dog or bear guy neck, like what's that one? That's
Here?
right above him. That's Thoth, right? So the one above this
Oh, the
one,
feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl.
that's Quetzalcoatl. That's serpent.
you know, Quetzalcoatl had a twin brother.
Yep, Kukulkan.
Mm.
And that's Anki and Enlil, you know. That's why you have Dugu and Dagon as well. They're all the same. You know, when they were in the sea, it was Dugu and Dagon. Then you know when these beings, like how they say that Anki's son is Thoth, and how you know these angelic beings didn't have biological reproductive systems. Like they didn't have sons and daughters like we do. You know, they don't die and live like we do. So that's where the whole confusion is, I believe, in this bloodline. Um, because they're incarnations of the same light. So, you know, like Marduk and Enki are the same energy or the same light. You know,
Do you
Where do
know
you
your
think
blood type,
where do you think this
Mike?
bloodline comes from?
Wow.
I believe it's AB positive, if I remember right. I don't
You
know
are?
off the top of my head for sure. Yeah.
Look at that Sumerian style king too, right there. Sorry, Shem, what was the question were you asking?
I was saying, where does he think the bloodline comes from?
Well, I mean, the Adamic bloodline itself, what Hitler was after, the white species. This was the creations of, this was the Genesis, the generations of Isis through Adam. She obviously did the Adamu first, and then came back through with the Adam, and birthed Adam from. They took the Adamu, which was like 12 different species, primate, reptilian, lizard, all these different species on this planet. They made a chimera between that as well as the Father's light. And they took the Father's
Chimera,
image.
aka also could be a homunculus, essentially, and the cross
Well,
between animal and human.
that's essentially what they were doing. And they made something really good with the Adamu, but it was being corrupted and abused and tortured, and that's where Anki stepped in, and where they took the Adamu genetics and crossed it with themselves. And so that's where the white comes from, and where it was too strong in Adam, and that's why you go down the bloodline to Enoch, and they took him up as an angel because he was special, because he was one of the very first human, Adamic species that had this, and then this is also why you have Cain and Abel, because the genetic was still unstable, and you would get pure evil and pure good, and so until they could mix it down and get the bloodline stabilized good enough, they got to Noah, and then the flood occurred, and then they worked it down even from there to Abraham and David, and then it was good enough finally and stable enough to have the Christ come in the flesh. And that's when the whole Pistis Sophia takes place, where he takes the power of the fallen angels and rises back as like a upgraded, you know, Adam angel, or whatever you want to call the risen Christ.
When did this take place?
Well, that transition between the Old Testament and the New Testament in the Bible, or where you would have in Babylon the fall of Enlil as the worship and the rise of Marduk. That the transitions here and the reasons why we have these transitions is the coming of the Christ and the taking of the fallen angels' powers mentioned in the Pistis Sophia, chapter 20.
Right, and so many of these, lots of, you have a collection of documented of these star map discs, but then I suspect a lot of like the rounder carving ones that show depictions with planet and star constellations could potentially also be an astro calendar, like timestamp sort of thing, once all the info's entered into the AI database and analyzed.
Yeah, I think that the main missing component right now is power, and that's why we're chasing, fusion, and why Nikola Tesla's work was such a threat, because the control of the power is the important thing. And the wireless power of the pyramids and the wireless power that Nikola Tesla came upon would have given this power and this alchemy and magic to everybody. And that's not what they want. They want to control
Well,
that power.
they use it. You're bang on, but it's that they are using that technology to control that power. From what the rumors and conspiracies say, with this technology of the aura or etheric energy wave spectrum that
Yeah.
also has thought waves within it and conscious wave energy or wavelength contained within that same field.
Yep.
Thus, the military or the evil powers that be have classified it and then researched and put it into weaponization and applied it against us over the last 50 to 60 years, from the stories that are out there and to the point that it's beamed down on us through satellites and through radio towers apparently now.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Well,
doubt that.
what I've been told. Who knows? Take that with a grain of salt, but could be.
There's definitely a higher level of control. You can tell when you have sitting presidents telling the nation that they don't have control of the country. That's not a good sign, you know. Man.
Right? Who was it that almost raided Area 51 or something? Or they didn't let him in? Uh,
Well,
not that-
JFK requested declassification on the topic, and just a couple
He was-
weeks later was no
yeah,
longer
I
around.
believe he was actually going to a meeting about that. He was on the way to talk to some guy about the process of that when he got assassinated in Dallas.
I believe it. Yeah.
Hoover, was it J. Edgar Hoover that whoever it was during or after Roswell, I think.
You guys need to see the JFK X film.
Yeah, I do.
It's so good. Like Jay Widener and Ryder Lee. It's so good.
Nice. Yeah, that's the main one Ryder Lee is known for, that I hear he did a great job on. Jeremy Lee, alien scientist. Oh, sorry, interrupt. Has also done really, really good in-depth research on the true JFK government overthrow and that we've been in fascist dictatorship ever since that coup d'etat happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I wanted, I heard you guys' stream on it, and I kept wanting to like shout to you guys, like, because the fact of the day that it was born, I mean, the day that it happened on, you know, November 22nd, like November 21st is when for thousands of years they did like the Mayans, the Egyptians, all these different cultures, they would do ceremonies. Basically, it happened like really powerful things that you want to happen. Why? Because it's the highest point. It's the point when the Pleiades is the highest in the sky. And this used to occur when October 31st, right? When it struck at midnight, when it became November 1st, is when the Pleiades was the highest in the sky. That
That's
no
for
longer,
Halloween.
it no longer occurs at that time. It now occurs when November 21st. So if you're trying to pull something off ritualistically or anything for that matter, the most powerful time of year you can do that is when the Pleiades is high in the sky. So the fact that they did it on November 22nd, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to tell them that.
It makes sense.
The October 31st day is interesting because that's the ending of World's Fairs, which goes all the way back to King Xerxes. According to Encyclopedia Britannica.
That would be an ideal time. But the thing is, it shifted, right? Because of something here shifted. And so that point no longer occurring at the November 1st, which, right, they celebrate it as like the Day of the Dead. Probably because it's like the things that you're able to pull off in that time. Like,
well, it's because we're moving like through the horoscopes. It's like now we're in the age of Aquarius, so we're moving through these periods, you know, so that the alignment.
I forget the exact time it shifted, but it did.
Yeah.
And the grand 12,000 or 24,000-year-old cycle halfway through 12,000 right now. So truly going from one side now into another. Like, that is so wild.
This is quite the pipe.
I was going to say, is that a pipe?
And like it looked clogged there, and as if there was charcoal, right? And like if that was buried in that like in the cave there, that same strata layer, you would expect that you could get that tested,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
it's
we have
tobacco.
Not of this one specifically, but yeah, Scott Wolter had his tested, and got a 10,000-year-old carbon date off the resin in the pipe, and found out that it was a majority tobacco.
That's amazing and epic. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so to see the dates match up, obviously getting carbon dates on the adhesive is one thing. Seeing the organic material from the ground match up to the resin on the pipes, to um, multiple things, bones. That I mean, that's four things that correspond together pretty consistently, and that's. And when I say pretty consistently, like some stuff is 10,000, some stuff is as much as almost 20,000. So there's a pretty big gap, but it's all consistent within that gap. Haven't found anything that's 2,000 or 3,000 or anything like that. Have found
Yeah.
stuff that was modern. I mean, definitely found fakes out there, but
It's like usually just one comes back with those sort of numbers is pretty good with the amount of interference, and of course always attempts with fakes and stuff like that in there. But the fact that you're getting most of the ones that you've tested with a good range of just a couple thousand years, but all over 10,000, that's freaking wild.
yeah. Yeah, and that's only from the Abuelos pieces. The stuff from Tula over here. This type of adhesive. Let me show you an example that's visible to the camera. Uh, well, you can see here, like this gem was put into this piece with some sort of adhesive. Um, Let me see if I can find something else here. Uh, but nonetheless, we had statue tested. The eyeballs were obsidian, and let's see here. Yeah, here we go. So, like for instance, the white piece here underneath of it, we tested that, and there's no organic material found in the two or actually we did three different statues. So it doesn't look like we'll be able to get a date from Tula statues directly. But what we will be able to do is get a date from the skulls. We had the one skull carbon dated, but there was not enough collagen in the sample that they took. And so they'll be taking another sample at the end of January for free and running that for us. And hopefully we'll get enough collagen in that. The bone, I'll show you here. The skulls are fairly thin, the bone, and so they took a good chunk off of one of the top pieces there and didn't find the collagen. He said, if that cow or that animal was 25 years old, that you would find collagen in that part of a sample. So he's like, it doesn't seem like it had been treated in any way that would affect no collagen, but the preservation makes a huge difference. And he said that there may not be any collagen at all. And if there's not, then that's probably a good sign. Um, we just have to keep trying.
That's all you can do. It's amazing
Yeah,
work.
I mean it's better than it, coming up, I guess, modern, but it's still inconclusive. So go fish.
Sorry, I just have to take a call quickly. I will be right back in 1 minute.
I'm like, back to your blood type.
Yeah, back to blood type.
Back to the blood. Ooh. Yeah, it seems to be key, and just it fascinates me as well. Is especially like the rarest blood type in the world. That fascinates me.
Oh yeah, yeah. Probably the Merovingian bloodline, if you're familiar with that as well.
Hmm.
I think there's absolute truth to that. Um, Obviously the bloodline of Abraham and David and these biblical you know names, these things that lived thousands of years in the Old Testament. This bloodline all of a sudden switched to only being able to live for 120 years, and I think there's a real important thing to analyze there, because um, that's a significant change in the story, and it says kind of in the Bible why that happens, and it says kind of in the cuneiform tablets why that happens. um but dang, and it's something that we work really hard to try to prevent, and like age specifically. It's what we fear the most, and it seems to be the most controlling factor against us as a species. You shrink someone's age down 1,000%. Uh, what what does that do for their ambition and you know appreciation of livelihood? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any theories? Like, you think we were tribal? Do you have any bloodline theories, Mike?
Well, yeah. Like I mean, I grow cannabis for a living, and I don't think it's any different, really. I think there's many different trays of plants, different genetics, different strains for different purposes. Some are bred for their purple color and smell. Some are bred for their gas and their medicinal effects. So, we have Chinese, we have Filipino, we have Japanese, and it seems like there's people that are built in certain cultures. For instance, you go to the world's strongest man competition, and you'll find a lot of guys from certain areas in Europe and so on and so forth, right? So I think it's really important to think that all these different tribes and all these different people are
Wait, go back to that last piece.
experiments.
Sorry,
What's this?
keep talking.
Yep.
You're on a good
No,
rant,
no,
but
John.
like that
This is
last
not the
piece.
conversation for YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We gotta take that one to the Rumble only next time.
Which one?
Critical race theory cannot be discussed.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Well,
oh, back
it,
to the
it, it
right, like
it's a
back to
beautiful
the
thing
piece to
though.
the
Like
back to the right. No, the
this?
one that you were. No, never. It was like almost like a plate. Like, you
Yeah,
take a
this.
step back. Yeah. Wait, there is a symbol. Okay. You see that symbol? It's like a triangle with the things coming down on it. That's on a lot of. Yeah, that one, the one that you just touched. Yeah, that's on a lot of ancient relics. That exact
Huh.
symbol. Except
Interesting.
that one has a circle above it, and it usually does not have a circle above it.
Huh.
Yeah, I
I've
wanted to
noticed a
see
lot
that.
of things like that where it's like similar. Even the cuneiform language that's written on these pieces, it's like there's similarities, but it's definitely different. And
Yeah,
and if the whole Tower of Babel story is true, then that would make sense why it's
It's
different.
literally the proto languages. Like it's like the language from all of them, right? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it would make total sense. Yeah. So back to critical race theory. No, I'm just
Hey,
he's
it's
like, I
you're
step
a
away for
YouTuber,
2 seconds.
so true.
You guys.
Yeah, it's wild though to see the many experiments that it talks about. Here's an example of the obsidian eye that we had tested. I was
That
looking for.
the thing that you handed, it looked like a scrying mirror. Like, what was that, obsidian? Like, it
Yep,
was like a
it,
handheld.
it is. Yeah, I'll show you.
What do they say that it says now? It's no longer mirror on the wall. They say that it said.
I'm not sure. The red and the orange on this stone are natural inclusions. It's beautiful.
I don't remember that exact
So,
quote, but a
You know
weird
what I'm talking
Mandela
about?
effect recently
Yeah,
was a turmeric saying that.
magic mirror. Thank you, Jeremy. They're saying it's magic mirror.
huh. I haven't held it up to the sun yet, but this is a pretty good indicator that it might have something going on there. I mean, they took the time to carve it. You know.
It's interesting. I mean, I don't know if we could talk horticulture talk, but like the data that is stored in the plants, that's fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's. I mean, plants are insane. Just the cannabis plant alone can have 6 trillion different smells.
And just the love that you feel, like go walking in and being around a bunch of plants, like the energy and the communication, the energy that you feel.
The South American tribes said that they got taught how to make ayahuasca from the plants.
That
Like
they
the
told them.
plants told them which plants to use. And there's like, I forget the statistic of how many plants there are in this jungle, but radical chances to come up with this, concoction.
Right. Graham Hancock said that ayahuasca handed him his book, that he took it and it literally gave it to him.
Yeah,
Speaks
I
about
believe
that.
it. I had a strange experience with it, right? Literally weeks before these pieces fell into my lap. I'm not even kidding. And what's even more crazy is the kid that gave it to me. He's been a friend for a really long time, and I buy opals and rocks from him. And he had told me about an experience that he had, and how this Anunnaki came with this pine cone and touched him in the forehead, and it was
Wait,
just
like
this crazy.
physically? Wait,
It,
etherically?
in
Like
a
he,
in a in a DMT, like he blasted off into this area where
what
this
the what the Anunnaki look like? He
it,
felt like
it,
it
it
was
it
what
looked
form?
like a the bearded type, like this, with the huge wings, and he touched a pine cone on his forehead, he said. And at the time, this was 2018, I had no idea what the Anunnaki even really were at the time. Kind of just like smile and nodded, like, dang, sounds like a good trip, and but it's funny, he's the one that brought the first piece to me. And now
And okay, there's hi guys. That was Mike, and we just lost them.
Oh dear, what happens, Mike? Luckily,
He started talking about Anunnaki showing up, and they're like, "Yeah, no, that's where
nope.
we draw the line."
Apparently, you can see images and artifacts of theirs, but if you mention them by name, no. Gone.
They're like critical race theory, ooh, and then they're like, "All right, that's enough. You've had
Yeah.
enough."
See, maybe that is the critical race theory. When you start talking about Anunnaki, they're like, shit, you're being critical of where we came from. Weird, not back. Huh. Well, that was awesome while we had him. Hopefully there wasn't a drone. Just kidding. He should be back, or maybe his phone could have died. I do know he does have another stream on his TikTok.
Yeah, at 11. Mm-hmm.
So, but what it's not like him just to disappear. Jam, we still have you. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
I saw Solar in the chat. I hope he makes it in.
Yeah, Solar. I sent you the link before the show started. Should be on your text. That's it. Weird. Like, maybe Mike's not come back. Well, thank you, Mike. We will be back with Mike next week, though, with the test results. That's why I really respect Mike and keep having him back on, is because he's taking every avenue possible to get these artifacts tested, verified, and actually like investigated. And no matter what the results are, like accepts them and straightforward. And that so far, all of the artifacts that have come from the Tula tomb location have come back at different dates, legitimately being 10 to 12,000 years old there. And then most recently, he accepts that they've said this, but for legal purposes, it kind of works out for his favor. That the Peruvian mummies were fake, that the Peruvian government took the two that he had bought that were supposedly identical to the ones that were shown at the Mexican Senate hearing that also originate out of Peru. But Mike believes that they didn't show any evidence or like the lab tests or anything like that, that it's just them whitewashing it and preventing the information from coming out. That said, legally, now he can buy as many more false, claim to be llama skulled, fake alien mummies and get us one of the actual samples, and then we can test it and see if it actually looks like, or is it llama skull, or get it to someone else to test. Who knows? Anyways, I think it's epic that he goes through that, and I look forward to seeing the test results and what he's got coming out with Scott Walter and everything. Aha, there we go. We've got some Shemwort research. What's Shem working on, good sir?
I was just bringing up this Parthenon video to play while you were talking about what was happening.
The Parthenon in Tennessee, right? Like from the perspective of the fact that most likely there were these seafaring, like world trade wide civilizations throughout history, not just after Columbus. Like it's documented in stories of Egypt and stories of South America and stories throughout Asia, everywhere, and evidence of it now. And then the fact that structures like the Roman Parthenon and stuff, and all the greatness of like the Romans and the ancient Greeks and giant megaliths, and can't even build it now. But the fact that, they were building it back then, but there can't be any such structures like that in North America because they were never over here. When in fact, like you mentioned with the cathedrals that were built in 1000 AD and further back throughout Europe, easily could have been built by the same culture in North America.
It doesn't make sense. Like if they're able to build it in Europe, they would surely be able to build it here. But an interesting thing about this World's Fair is that it only made $50, and this is during a depression in the United States of America. So just building these doesn't even make sense at all.
Well, there's like massive caves in Tennessee and waterfalls, right? So
that's insane. What? So what about $50? It only made?
Yeah, the profit was $50, and
the overall profit. Okay, wow.
And they say the buildings were not made to be permanent, and they rebuilt the Parthenon in 1931. That's what we're showing here. But another one of the buildings was for some reason transferred like 20 miles or 30 miles to the south of Tennessee. The Pythias building. It comes up here in a minute in the video, actually. Yeah, right here. It's called the Carlisle House right now, but this building was originally allegedly a part of the World Fair, and then they transferred it all the way down to another county in Tennessee. So I show the map here in a minute.
And is it made of plaster, or is it made of brick and stone? That looks like
I guess it's allegedly a permanent building because it still exists today.
Right?
Wait, clearly. Delphi. Whoa! Pause it right here. Wait,
yeah,
whoa.
This is basically a secret society. So, but this is the Pythias building, but it's related to Pythia with the Oracle of Delphi and these ancient oracles, which were basically anytime for some reason in ancient history, whenever a leader wanted to make a decision, they would go to these oracles and ask for basically their advice in the situation.
And she speaks in like parables. It's not even very clear, and she's like huffing those things. But there's always a translator, to like a guy that will oversee it. I believe it was like she was accurate at one point, but then it was kind of used as a hustle afterwards.
Well, it definitely seems like a hustle because, for example, one situation what you're talking about where they speak in parables is Croesus, the king. He went to the priestess and donated a bunch of stuff to her and basically asked, should he invade Persia? And the priestess was basically like, if you invade Persia, then a great empire will fall. So Croesus thought, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna beat Persians. But what ended up happening was his great empire fell. So he was deceived.
Yeah, I think it was there was once upon a time that where it was accurate and there was these accurate pieces, and I think it was then used as a hustle to divert it. And that's another thing. Yeah, they would give offerings and wait for days sometimes. But and it's very like it could be taken one way or another. Like it's not even totally clear and concise. But yeah, I feel like it was an ancient practice that was once accurate.
I think it has something to do with the mystery religions, but
big time. 100%.
And not only that, but the kind of intel you're going to have by all these people coming from all these different lands, having issues and problems. So then you're going to get the gossip on everything. When people are coming to you and they're like, listen, I need to know about this. They're going to, the amount of intel you can get, and then all the dirt of all the towns.
And then on top of that, then like Shem's saying with the mystery religions, then you have like the high priests that like are, the head of the mystery or religious state, as far as the actual oracles are concerned. So then it's like the head priest is probably whispering in their ears what they're going to tell the king that comes to see them on what they should do. And, just that hidden hand still running everything.
It just makes me mad because I know that they're like, I don't want to have seers or, have a bad name, that there are accurate, really good ones.
Oh, absolutely. Just
it's debatable, but this is what I was talking about earlier with the that Knights of Pythias building. So that the top part is where it was originally built, and then it was transferred down to 1015 Carlisle Lane. So today that's a 30-minute drive. It's 22.9 miles. For some reason, they moved that building from the World's Fair down to that location. Very strange story.
Why do you think they did that?
I don't know.
What about the waterways? Like, what's the difference in water of where the water is there versus there? Is it still next to water in both locations?
Well, these are man-made water structures at the World Fair, allegedly. So they definitely don't connect. I don't know if there's water close to this location. One interesting thing is if you look at the brochure for the 1897 Tennessee Expo, you'll see that this building doesn't even show up on the map. So So I guess what's suspicious about this is what is this picture? Like, are they making up this story to cover up for something else? Because this building is very far away from that location.
What's up with the pyramid?
Very strange. And yeah, like is the pyramid still there today? And is the water area
this is the map
still there?
This is the brochure I'm talking about. So there's that pyramid we were just seeing in the photo. The Knights of Pythias building is nowhere to be seen on this brochure map. So that's the pyramid we were just looking at, and the Knights of Pythias building should be close to it.
A building that was supposedly moved 25 miles afterwards, that was supposedly a temporary structure, but is a permanent building still standing today, that they claim they moved from there, that doesn't appear in the map.
And this building right here is interesting because today this is like a dog park, but when you drive out of this location because I went here recently to the Parthenon, when you leave to the Parthenon, you see this hill over here. It looks like a man-made structure, but it's like a multi-level mound, and this is exactly the location on it, is where this lift is. It kind of looks like it's already layered up right here, if you can see my mouse. But I don't know.
Yeah, we can see your mouse, and that's cable cars going up to this place. Wild. They had a cable car gondola, sorry.
So yeah, this is what it looks like. In person, it looks even weirder. See how it's like
a straight step pyramid mound.
And that's where that lift
Does anyone have any like crazy theories of like, oh, they used the World's Fair to like repopulate, or a bunch of people went missing that day?
So what I suspect with the World's Fairs were that it was the colonialization, aka capture, and like reset history, or pre-Civil War, or the original inheritors, these were like the cities of commerce and trade that other cultures, whether it was the Orient, the Egyptian, the African being the Moorish, the Vikings, whoever, that, and especially Tartarians throughout that area, had like their embassy castle within these areas. And when you see the maps of them, it's like you literally have like this crazy Indian palace castle, this crazy like Chinese embassy palace castle, this crazy Austrian castle, freaking, and like,
Well,
kind of like what the world and embassies are today and at these places, but it seems like they weren't like temporary structures. They were like legit castles made of megalithic stone that were there for a very long time, and that they then did these shows to like show off the public, oh, here's this new technology. Before it was magic, but now it's actual machines and stuff, and this is, you know, the new industry. Well, and then just destroying it all, claiming that it was something new when in fact it was something old, if that makes sense.
I just wonder what the point of it, if you're going to tear it down, you know, like with a temporary thing, or what direction they were trying to take it in and change their mind.
So that's one of the big mysteries of all of these World's Fairs, is that they officially had to all have been temporary buildings, because why else would you tear them down afterwards? How else were they made in so little time? And like, why else would you put so much cost and effort into erecting them? And then that for those that all the buildings that are remaining, people that have looked and seen it, none of them are made of plaster, when in fact they're all seem to be these ancient building techniques and thousands of years old, and like the same like parallel analog styles as the rest of the world where you find them, and where they're claimed to be thousands of years old.
Well, I don't know. I think there's multiple ways to look at it. For example, a lot of ancient, like medieval cities were founded during World's Fair. So basically what would happen is they would meet up and have these World's Fairs, and that's how a city would be founded, to create trade, because there's a certain group of people that relish in trade, establish themselves throughout trade in history. So something similar could have been taking place in 1893. Keep in mind that there's a book that goes along with this World Fair called The History of the World Fair, Columbian Exposition, published in 1893. At the same time, it details the construction of all the buildings, the Chicago World's Fair, and it talks about a single Indian monarch being in control of the same area of the World's Fair 3 years before 1892.
An Indian monarch.
Yeah, so
like native, indigenous, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like, how far after the Civil War was this? And did they like claim that freeing slavery was what the North was fighting for, when in fact it's like the reality was it was a multicultural, indigenous, as well as like, you know, just people from the rest of the world, aka part Tartarian, part Moorish, part, you know, Celtic, parts Viking, whoever, the Templars, whoever was left. Rome conquered Europe and the rest of the area there, and then the Spanish Inquisition essentially was their attack towards conquering the New World and wiping out the old history. And then the quote unquote US Civil War was the last battle of like the resistance or whatever power was there remaining pre whatever, the free world, and then
That's
now
why I would
under.
like to look at like the cave. That's why I found it interesting. Immediately you said Tennessee in this place. I'm like, I wonder how close it is to some of those caves and underground stuff there. That's what I immediately thought of.
Well, when I was driving into Nashville, I did see a lot of signs that said cave cities and stuff like that. But
Oh, so you went there?
yeah, I went down
Oh,
here for a wedding, but I didn't have a chance to stop at some of these cave cities. But they were piquing my
Man, you got to
interest.
go investigate that for sure. Shout out to Dutch Sense, actually, but he just posted some articles in his community section about in LA, or just outside LA, California, of a bunch of homeless people found living in caves. And it's like they claim that these homeless people just built all these caves, and it's like the homeless people are like, no, we didn't. And you look at them and they're like identical to all the crazy ancient like cave cities that are like unexplained, like megalithic underground cave towns and cities. And it's
yeah,
like
it's all over the
that's
world.
exactly just another site of it in Cali, apparently. And now it's where the homeless live. Now they have
You're like,
homes. Fuck, I take that.
right, right. That's why it's like it's so crazy. If like, gosh, if we could use the homeless or people
Shout
that
out
need
to the
work
cave
to
folk.
dig out to excavate these cave systems, there's so many of them. It would solve so many problems of just figuring out the water source.
And lots of times there are aquifers at the very bottom they find.
Is somebody out there? I'm trying to manifest someone to come up with a nonprofit to do that, to literally like excavate caves and get people housed in them. Right? That'd be a
Dig
great. That'd be a
in your
great.
home, digging out your home. Just no. I don't know. Gotta think on that one. That's a great idea.
You're like, you want an underworld, not in the main cities. You could do it in the underworld.
Like heck. It's like your own underground bunker. You just gotta dig it out. Find where some undug ones are. Of course, the Bosnian pyramids. That's why we have to go there and like plan to like spend some time there and do some actual archaeology on that site. Like do some help. I wanted to, for next summer, so a year from now, plan and like aim to do a month or two, join as part of like Sam Ivanovich's team and like actually do archaeological work and like film and document it all and actually experience like digging out some of
Do
those
like a
caves.
3-week tour there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh,
Get to
shout out
absorb the scalar waves.
hell yeah, darn straight. I'm gonna be camping or napping on top of that pyramid at some point. Set up a tent on top. That beam blasted. Pyramid beam blasted.
Did we ask? What did Sam say about the top of that? Like the cornerstone stone, like of what he thought about that pyramid. Didn't he say like emitted light?
Yeah. So the pyramid of the sun, right out of the top of it, he's documented and filmed several times this beam of light coming directly out of it, and that he's now been able to document and track and show that it follows the path of the sun throughout the day. So it's pointing at the sun as the sun's on the horizon when it rises, straight up above, straight to the sun at noon, and then to the west as it sets at night, and then apparently no beam for the night.
Mm-hmm. But there's a moon one, right? There's a moon
pyramid. Oh my god, the pyramid of the moon. That's what we're gonna do there. We're gonna have to get him to repeat that process and track the moon at night and the pyramid of the moon. And I bet you there's gonna be some sort of like moonlight beam to the moon. That would absolutely be insane, and I bet you it's probably going to happen. That like, because that would just be nuts.
I know we should time it to do it like during a full moon.
100%. Well, we're gonna be there. Have to be there for a month or one lunar cycle, because the beam will be strongest, I bet, at full moon. But you never know. Maybe it's during an empty moon.
Well, yeah, no, new moons are the most powerful. The full moon is when you're getting rid of things, when you want to rid yourself. You're supposed to start parasite cleanses. You're supposed to think of all the things you need to rid in your life that's not serving you and what you want to end. It's about endings. Full moons are about endings. New moons are about manifestations, what you want to manifest, what you want to create, what you want to move towards, like so. Because there's a lot of people that will be like, full moon, do your manifestations, and it's like, whoa, easy.
It taketh. So if we, maybe try that, whatever experiment going to do, meditate on top or in the lunar pyramid on an empty moon, and it will grant the gift of a trip to the moon. Maybe it's an actual moon beam, huh? I don't know. That'd be crazy. All of a sudden, you're astro projecting into the moon.
Hey, that's what I want to do. I want to go to Egypt and like do some like levitation goals, things I got to do this year.
Right?
If you levitate, please film that. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think about this? What do you think about this 1697 map of Star Fort in Chicago?
I love it. I love it because it proves that it was there, and all of them, and they were more advanced.
So that's close to Dubuque, Iowa, right?
What's significant about that place?
Well, it's very interesting. Well, because of something. Did you guys ever see the video clip of oh god, of Hillary Clinton talking about, like, she was in an interview? It's kind of hard to find. I think Solar saw it, of saying she was made in a basement, in a garage in in Iowa, this particular city in Iowa. But so that was right. How far is that from Chicago? That Star Fort?
That on this map it was Chicago, but according to mainstream history, it never existed. It was just a mistake, even though there's an explorer named Smollett who went through the area and documented this site and saw it firsthand with their own eyes, which is why there's a map of it.
My mom's from Chicago. I'm gonna tell her she grew up on a Star Fort. I'm gonna say, listen, Mom, we got to talk. You're from a Star Fort.
We're gonna have to send her to the modern day quarry that or mine that's probably still there, the remnants of it. Get her to
and then she lived in Yosemite for like 20 years, so she's lived in some cool places.
Yosemite. I love that place.
So you've been there? You've been to Yosemite, Bernie?
I have. I've actually seen Old Faithful go off.
Nice. Oh, you went to Yellowstone.
Oh, Yellowstone. What's Yosemite? No,
Yosemite's in Northern California. It's got Half Dome, El Capitan.
Never mind. Never been.
I want to go to Yellowstone though.
I gotta go to Yosemite then. What's Yosemite?
Yeah, they had like large sequoias. Yeah, there's Half Dome. There's and there's the Ahwahnee Hotel, like in the valley. There's El Capitan. It's beautiful. It's got a lot of granite, but a lot of evil things happen there. A lot of disappearances, a lot of, just like in all national parks.
One of those. All right.
Really weird how the fleur-de-lis on the Chicago map.
And what is the fleur-de-lis? Like what sector, like what secret group does it show? Like we were here.
Mostly just, I believe, French, correct? Or French.
I don't know if it's. Yeah, it represents France, but it also represents a certain tribe of Israel. But it represents. There's so many different interpretations of what it could represent, like the Holy Trinity, everything else: the Maiden, the Crone, the Virgin, the Mother. I don't know.
Most likely representing all of those things.
But in mainstream history, Chicago at one point was a part of the French Empire, so that could represent that time period, and this survey shows that it's built out during the time period where the French were here, when mainstream history for some reason says that there was nothing built by the French in this area when they occupied it.
Yeah,
So
it seems like you're looking at like something. Is it showing canal systems, water systems?
it's showing this is a survey of the city of Chicago. So it's a topographical survey, which topographical survey means that it shows man-made objects and stuff like that, showing all natural and man-made features and improvements. So that's what this map is showing.
When the opera house in Chicago, like it hit my heart so hard, like it really resonated, and I couldn't get my eyes off it. And I just wanted to go there and stay there. The opera house and the way it backs up to the, to the water, and it's the building it's profound.
Right, like it's of old world, and was it from a previous civilization? Like it's just those are all of these buildings, they just like leave you in awe, just the energy of them. They're insane, like beautiful, remarkable, and powerful.
Yeah, I used to look at try to find really old canal system maps, like like
Yes.
Philadelphia, yeah, in North America.
Do you have any saved or links, please?
Yeah, I do. Oh, you mean to pull it up right now? I put it in my slideshow. Like I did a presentation and put it in there because it's for what I've noticed is like the similar design everywhere where they have canal systems and waterways, and they've they tried like the redesigning them and stuff. But an 1833 one in Pennsylvania is really interesting. I'll try to find it right now.
Yes, please. Absolutely. After Shem's done, I'd love to.
That's the time period that the maps we're looking at right now, 1833.
Right, exactly. So it's like there's comments I 1000% agree with in live chat about back in that time period, the cost of making maps and choreographing and topography and all of it, like you don't do it for fun, you're doing it for a purpose, and there's no room for error or cost or mistake or like
check this out too. Once we get to the left here, look, it's censored. 3, 2, 1, right there, that white space right there. This is what you see on a lot of old photos and a lot of old maps. You have like censored out random sections, which could be dates or whatever else, all the time.
That's a good eye.
Because this is cutting off right at the top of where the World's Fair would start on this map right here.
Wow! Right, look at that. That's
what's up with that wall in the water? That was an interesting wall.
So is there another segment that has that area, or no? It's just missing.
No, it's just completely gone for some reason. So clearly you can tell that like they have the capabilities of making the map. So someone probably has it in a private collection or
guaranteed. You're 100% right. That map exists and it has it guaranteed it has it there for sure.
That's the ridiculous thing about it, is that there's so many documents and everything in private collections that we'll never be able to see because people are greedy in copyright law and people take pride in worshiping copyright law. But okay, so this is a map from 1733 showing Chicago with a star for it clear as day right here, and Chicago was not even founded until the 1800s. I believe it was in the 1830s. This is from Henry Popple.
Wow.
1733?
Yeah, and the last map we were looking at was from 1697. And the person who made that map was going off a first-hand account of people who went through there.
Like, especially in that time frame, like you're not gonna misdraw things that don't exist, where it's like that's people's life or death. You're aiming for that area, like, because, oh, you're going to travel there because you see a city there. Like, you're going to that city. You're not going to just randomly be like, hey, let's draw places that don't exist to F with people for the only maps that exist for these areas.
Well, that's the thing, is that all the other places are right. Like, for example, right here, Fort Frontenac. This is a real star fort that we know about that existed. It's correct on the map. So why would they get this location correct? Why would they get this location correct? But for some reason in Chicago, you know, they didn't get that part right, but we can cherry pick and we can say that they got this other section right for our college paper. It's unbelievable.
Right, like the level of cognitive dissonance needed to maintain like the official like history narrative, it's nuts.
Yeah, you literally have people who went to this location and took record of it, that they use in mainstream history, other parts of their story, but when they got to Chicago, somehow that one little tiny section of their story, that's not true. But everything else, that's fine. That goes on the test.
Like, boom, evidence of it. We need to try to find LiDAR of this area, and if we could actually like prove that there's a bastion arm right there, that's direct evidence that star forts are from a previous civilization before colonial settlement.
I mean, to me, there's almost no doubt, because we have ancient star forts in Europe. They clearly, the narrative in the United States is that they're made for like the Civil War and stuff like that, but we have them in Europe way before that. So clearly, they're lying. And by the way, this is what one of those star forts on the map looks like today.
Yeah, like
So
a
you can
Star
only
Citadel city, exactly.
You can only imagine how massive the other ones were.
Shout out Quebec City. Like, that's so epic. They're like, yeah, that's a railway state. Railway.
Plus, it's like a hub for like with all the waterways. Everything always comes back to the water. Always.
Exactly.
Like, go to the water, go to the water. And that being such a hub. And it's interesting too that like all the indigenous, like from what I understand, would meet all of the like, because it was things were done by communities, the ancient times, and each leader from each community, they would gather, they'd meet up, not all the time, but like they'd go and they'd gather all the leaders from each community and they would speak about things and address things. But from what I understand, that happened at Castle Rock in Pennsylvania.
I believe that. And I believe like the petroglyph system everywhere, or the geoglyph system, and the different ancient stone calendars, all the astroarchaeology that they had these travel and like ancient mapping and meeting times of different like world trade and like empires and stuff, sort of thing. You know, like the times that the Vikings would come over, the Templar, the Moors, whoever it be, that they would all meet in certain spots, be it like the pyramids of South America, North America, or Easter Island used to be known as Christmas Island. Like, it would be at these times of the solstices and equinoxes.
Right. And I feel like that's a thing that's maybe used to devise, maybe is a strategy of really where they get you looking on national and international law, like areas in government. Whereas if everybody focused in their backyard, in their communities, in their local government and what was going on and was more involved, but if it would make a bigger difference of like things you could do and control within you, but with they keep you distracted over like national and feeling like you have no control. And it's like the bigger picture, it prevents a lot of people from taking action or feeling like they could make a change and make a difference in their neighborhood, in their community.
I agree. People are basically paralyzed.
So this is really interesting. So you found the star fort. You found that on the map, and then you put it all in this video. That's what you're referring to in this video.
Yeah, this is basically just a collection showing the history of Chicago and how it's basically contradicts itself. And the
Wasn't it
star
known
fort,
as like Chicon? Like, wasn't it a different name too on maps?
yeah, it has a different. One name is like Quada, another one is Chicago, which is like a type of garlic apparently that was grown in the area in the past.
Ooh, a type of
Galaga,
garlic.
right? Like there's all these ancient maps that like show what looks like pre cataclysm North America, and in the area of Chicago, it's like called Shalaga, but there's no Great Lake. It's on like a river system, like in the same area.
Yeah, for some reason the Germans thought that Chicago existed long before America did, and it was completely dismissed.
Because they knew it did, because they traveled there and they traded there, as did everyone before the reset.
I mean, there's multiple reasons why that could be, but
And it was written on their old maps for those that hadn't.
The garlic thing, though, is that the most ancient name? The one that was the garlic?
I think the Quada was the oldest one that I found, but I'm not sure. But the earliest European account we have is a 16, I think it's 1693 with this Jussi Jacques Marquis and Louis Jolette's exploration, 1673. They're the ones that documented the star fort and the different routes that people were using at that time. So they reported a canal connecting Lake Michigan to the Mississippi, which is
Yeah, see,
extremely
this is why
impressive.
canal maps are so. It's like that's why I just want to
So
get my
beautiful.
hands on. Like, the older the canal map, but the more I want to see it, the better.
And the more
But
anomalies there are.
this still exists today. This is like that waterway we're looking at on the map beforehand.
So this report of the canal between the Lake Michigan and the Mississippi River is what you're saying, correct?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so that right there is evidence and documentation of it both being shown, built, and used beforehand, and that our civilization never built it to begin with.
yeah. So the first, I guess, permanent settler in Chicago was some dude from Haiti, but in some sources he's called the first white man, but he's officially African American, so it's very confusing. It's trying to figure out why some sources refer to him as a white man and other, but in mainstream history he's known as a Haitian. He's an African American, but he was the first permanent settler in Chicago in the early 1800s or the late 1700s. I don't remember the exact year off the top of my head. So we're talking about like almost 100 years beforehand. That's when this star force being reported.
Right? So it's like it's only rumors before that time. The mainstream narrative civilization.
I wouldn't even call it rumors because you have to think about France didn't even get rid of the territories in America until after Napoleon. So this is before the Napoleon we're talking about right now.
Oh, so more likely this was just like French civilization and
Yeah, so these people probably knew what they were talking about. They were probably just trading. It
uh,
was just natural stuff for them at that time. So that's who these people are that we're talking about. They're like French explorers.
oh my god, I just had like a realization that most likely the Métis people that for the longest time, like they've existed throughout all of Canadian history, and they've always been they were always trying to fight their wars for independence, and that it was like they were also never real until quite recently officially like recognized or treated as an official indigenous people or tribe either, because they were claimed to be a mixed race of half French, half Iroquois indigenous, when in fact, what about the possibility that they're labeling that Métis as like a recent creation when it could have been this previous French, half French people, half indigenous people, civilization that populated these areas before that.
I mean, they have multiple reasons why they would want to cover that up. It would take a lot to get into that. Napoleon, there are reports of him, there are literally news reports of him rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem that for some reason are pushed off as false history, even though like news outlets are recording this back at that time period. So there are multiple reasons why what you're saying could be true. But what I have pulled up on the screen right now is something very interesting, because in 1812 it says, before the war, which is, we're talking about Fort Dearborn, which is something you brought up before in relation to Chicago. In 1812, before the war, there were 15 private homes that exist in Chicago. So let's take a trip back to 1673, where there were 300 cabins. So the eyewitness account for this Joliet Marquette exposition in 1673 says there were 300 cabins. But mainstream history says that there are only 15 private homes that existed in Chicago before Fort Dearborn in 1812. So something happened to those 300 cabins.
Right. That's a legit township. That's a civilization. 300 people, 300 cabins, nonetheless. Not teepees or tents or like anything temporary. No, that's 300 homes built and living in that place.
Exactly, and accommodations for people traveling through the area.
Oh, like documented as a trading post sort of spot. Like you know, like ancient or old like testimony of, especially of like travelers and traders, would be giving false like locations or false stories of like towns where you can go trade and stay and like get service out. Like you'd literally be hunted down and killed by like some of the survivors of the next people that would like try to go there and would end up dead because you drew something that didn't exist and told a fable and they died. Like,
I think what happened is that some of the people who were here just basically agreed to be a part of the new government, the new system that took over, and others rebelled, which is why you still have some of the stories of Native Americans rebelling at that time period. For example, right here, what I've pulled up on the screen is that Abraham Lincoln was nominated to run for president in a building called the Wigwam, which is a Native American building in Chicago in 1860. So think about the fact that we have the Indian Removal Act, which made Abraham Lincoln's family be removed from Kentucky to Illinois as a result of that, because allegedly he was not white. So that's why his family was removed, because he was a part of the Indian Removal Act. So where am I going with this? He could have been a representative of these people who was used in the Civil War to basically get certain people on board, and then once it was over with, he was assassinated. Right?
Sounds like the same system that controls us now.
I mean, they've done it multiple times in history, so there's a lot of
Don't they get the leader too to like turn against their tribe, and then they have him?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like he was a good person to get some of the people on board with what was happening. Because you have to think about what was taking place in America at that time period. They're getting everyone to sell their farmland and come to this new city for like an opportunity to have a better life. Right?
From what I understand, it's like they know when to go underground and then they come back up. And like a lot of families were overtaken by people. Like imagine pirates like showing up and overtaking families. Like they are now that going to be known as that family with that business and everything. Like literally, like that's kind of in a sense what, like imagine like a gold rush where it was like a rush to overtake rich, of like kind of mobbing it like a pirate and overtaking bloodlines where they're known, they then become that family, that those people with, they're not really those people. Like where it gets diluted.
Yeah, I mean that's the origin of these alleged controllers, is that they usurped the family, they usurped the story, they stole it,
And certain like all the groups too, like the Knights Templar, the Knights of Malta, and like there's always these groups, right? And then we'll be like, oh, but those are evil. It's like every group gets infiltrated. Okay,
I agree with that.
Not everything starts devious.
I think they usually start out good and then they get infiltrated.
Exactly.
And once they get registered with the government, that's the only reason they're allowed to exist still. Here's an example of that Quadoth city name I was talking about earlier, though. This is one of the.
So that's the one that's the garlic.
No, that the garlic one is Shikagoa or Shikogu. I'm not really sure how to say it.
So then it becomes, so it's the Shikago, was the garlic one, but then it's this one with the Q.
Yeah, there's Shilaga, Shikagoa, and Quadoth is what I've seen. There's a couple more.
Sounds so indigenous too. Oh, I can see where they're like, all right, let's make it let's not make it so indigenous sounding.
Well, and so another major part of like my thesis on how there was like these world trade sites were like essentially like trading posts that had embassies of each of the different former civilizations, is the couple of treatises that Shem had shown before that had like Tartaria, and like it was like I think Canada, but it's spelt wrong, like pre-named Canada or something like that, and like all of these things as like something like a United Nations, but it was like titled something slightly different. Do you remember that, Shem?
The only book I've really shown that has multiple nations under a United States thing is that multiple. I forget what the name of the book is, but it's like all the United States.
Oh yeah, United States. That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah, and it has like Canada and all these other countries listed, which is a really weird thing, but it would fit into the idea that there was a global empire.
Right? Like, and so here to test, like give it just like an initial test to that theory that could show potentially it is if we get that list and then compare it to some of the world's fairs, and if all of the world's fairs have exactly the same and identical like buildings that were these like embassy sort of things as the ones listed in that United States treaties.
Yeah, I mean, I think even without that, there's enough evidence to prove that the architecture is at least similar, because that's basically what we'd be looking for in that situation, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell exactly. It's hard to tell exactly when this all fell apart.
It's all identical, and it's like they claim, oh, this is Roman influence, like what do they call it, reproduction or imitation or whatever, this one's Gothic or this one's this or that, when most likely it's like, no, all of these were different ancient civilizations that were global, that it's like the ones that were from the Orient, well, they built them over here because it was multicultural and just like it kind of is now, sort of thing. Or sorry, the whole relevance of what I meant to say there is the way that we'll test it to prove it is the building techniques and materials in these Western ones. And if they're shown to actually be of geopolymer style, like the ones throughout Europe and the rest of the world, and the megalithics and stuff like that.
I think the decals and statues, stuff like that, kind of gives it away, because you have the same symbols, you have the same figures posted on these random buildings in all these cities. Because in the main cities, like in your
Yeah, but a lot
capital,
of things were put on the outside to make it appear like a whole nother faction of people. And like apparently the columns were added too to make it like, oh,
But
this
that's
is
what
what it
they're
is.
claiming. That's like the official claim, and they're like using it as like, oh, it's just imitation. This, we had this period of everything we built was out of imitation, out
I'm
of
talking,
like lust
I'm
for
talking
the ancient styles. When in fact, it's more likely that it was just ancient stuff from the original same styles, and they've just come up with all these different stories to try to explain why it's everywhere, all over still, right?
in the major cities in your state, they're gonna be taken down. But if you go to like a small town in your city or in your state, you'll see that they still have all the decals on the buildings. Like they'll have these random pictures of like Napoleon for some reason over the door, carved in stone. And it's really confusing because you're thinking, why?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that there's not some, certain carved things that were once ancient, but from what I understand, they added like, like pan and like gargoyles and like certain things like and attached it like on that like to make it look like that it was like that type of energy and regime when it's like no, not at all.
I'm just confused about why would they add a picture of Napoleon carved in stone above a building in a random city in Ohio, for example.
Right, like that's like leads more to the idea of, oh, maybe Napoleon did come to North America, or whoever.
Well, it just leads to the idea that if the French Empire did have power until the
Yes.
end of Napoleon, then why would they basically constructed these cities since they were already in mainstream history in control of that area? Why would they not build buildings?
With
So
the
for the
ruler
so
of that time
so
frame.
yeah, so if say you have in mainstream history, you have, for example, Springfield, Ohio being under French control, and then in modern day you have literal carvings of Greco-Roman figures on the old buildings that were built in the 1800s. I mean, it just sounds ridiculous to not assume that the reason that Napoleon is on the building is because it was built by the French when they were there. Like, why would people who just bought it from France, not best case scenario, they bought it from France 60 years ago. For some reason, they're after buying it from France, they're like, oh, let's put Napoleon on this building. Just doesn't make any sense to me.
How
Right.
big did they make Napoleon? How big is the Napoleon?
Hold on, I'll show you. I have it on my.
This is
It's
really
it's
interesting.
not very big, but it's
I
just
feel
like
like they have sense of humors though in a way. Like I feel like a lot of it's like jokes of like
Well, the fact that it's all, it's more logical that it, like the fact of the amount of the fleur de lis and like Napoleon, that it's like all of this French stuff that matches the same architectural style that the French were actually building in Europe 500 years ago, that it would have been built over here in that same time by them if they were in charge of this area and living in here, or uh, colonizing this area at that time.
I want to see how big Napoleon Napoleon.
I have to find it. It's on my. It's in. It might be in one of my parody videos.
Did they make it like Titan size? Like is it like
No, it's just like there's a
miniature? Like that'd be really
for
funny.
some reason in Springfield, Ohio, there's a bunch of these like Capitol buildings and what you would think would be Tartarian buildings. And there's like a bank, and for some reason on one side of the bank there's a figure of like a Native American chief, and on the other side there's like a Napoleon-looking figure that's carved in stone.
A chief on like the right side and then Napoleon on the left?
Or it could be vice versa, but yeah, basically. But let me try to find it. I think I put it in one of my John Levi parody videos.
I know I've seen it. But yeah, that's not the one at in Tennessee there. That's Idaho, you're saying.
No, I'm talking about Springfield, Ohio. So this is just like a
Ohio.
random town. This is just a random town.
I always get that people traveled through tunnels, and I get it just makes me want to aggressively say it, like they traveled beneath the earth, and that's where it answers a lot of this. But if we can come from that consciousness of how unified they were, like I have no proof of that, none whatsoever.
But a belief, and that's all.
But a strong knowing. God damn it. Through the tunnels beneath the earth.
Well, I'm going to be exploring next summer what I believe to be some entrances that are some ancient megalithic, probably giant, what look to be entrances into mountains that would be leading to those underground tunnels. So who knows? Maybe I can find some footage for you. Or make some footage, I should say.
That's what we should be doing. We're all like is excavating and being our own archaeologists. Like, come on, they find it and they can't even touch the real telling stuff because they will lose funding. So we're like turning to these archaeologists like, hey, guess what? Go find some cool stuff. Huh?
Are the old liar. They're the old system and they're liars, and they're just trying to cling to their old paradigm with only lies now, and that there's so much evidence coming out of the ground and just of people exploring, doing their own research and finding it and confirming it and sharing it. And that's what we're doing here, and that's what we encourage everybody to do, because once you reach a certain amount of pulling giant bones out and getting pictures of them, or stuff like that. Well, and also, for instance, elongated skulls and potentially UFOs and alien stuff, right? Interesting.
Unfortunately, I can't find that video. I don't know what happened to it. It's like removed from my channel, but I showed it on your stream before, I think.
I was just wondering how big you think he is.
It's not very big. It's probably like, if I had to guess, I'd probably say like between 6 to 9 inches.
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
It's like a little, it's just like a little decal, and there's acanthus leaves all around it, and there's just normal like Greco-Roman fleur-de-lis, stuff like that.
We'll try to get it together and look for it for either the World's Fair episode we're going to be putting together for either next week or the week after. And yeah, we'll make sure to get that. We'll figure it out. But for this one, should probably wrap it up. I got to get going, and it is getting late. Any final words, my friends?
I appreciate you having me.
Start digging.
Right? And you never know what you're gonna find. Like, why could find gold? Dig for gold. That's what I'm gonna do. Well, metaphorically, because I'm digging to find the tunnels to go into mountains, and hopefully there'll be a room of gold, but you never know. I'm also going to go back to try to find the Bigfoot again this summer, to Headley, BC, where I swear I experienced one this past summer, and it is a mountain gold mine. So this next summer I will be doing some cave or tunnel gold mining, exploring, and this will be an interesting one. I'm going to invite anybody and everybody that wants to come for that too. Anyways, all right, I'm rambling. Go subscribe to Julie Cam, go subscribe to Shem Jacobs, Tartarian Truth. Last words? Nope.
Appreciate you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I love you guys.
Sorry.